Hey, everyone. This is the Iran update. It's going to be the first of two Iran updates for today, focusing on different aspects of what's going on there. This update is going to focus on the potential for regime change and what's going on that front. I've been emphasizing in a lot of my videos, and I want to make this very clear, bombing itself cannot bring down the regime, okay? In all your conversations you're having with people and people saying, oh, we want to attack, we want to strike, just remember, we do want the regime to fall, but bombing does not necessarily bring down the regime. Bombing will cause a reaction by the Iranian regime. And if in that reaction damage is caused to American assets or there's escalation regionally, which causes the Americans to stop short of continuing to bomb to bring down the regime, or at whatever point the Americans decide that they're done, the regime is still standing, it could be worse that they bombed. Okay, I'm not anti-attacking. I'm just laying out there that we have to be very clear-eyed. Bombing does not necessarily bring down the regime. What will bring down the regime is the people, and only the people, rising up to bring down the regime. So the bombing can create conditions that make it more likely that the regime falls. All these protests we've been seeing for the last couple of months, which have almost brought down the regime, were only made possible because of the weakening of the regime in the 12-day war. Okay, so we can create the conditions. That said, there are some things happening on the ground. It appears that the opposition, the Iranian opposition, and the people are becoming more bold. And I want to show you a few indications of that. One of them is simply the fact that protests have resumed, focusing mostly on the university campuses. Now, that is not sufficient. It's important, and I've heard that they're spreading, but they're not being put down with violence by the regime, which is very smart of them. They can't really, because right now they're in negotiations with the Americans, and if they start shooting protesters again, that will not be good for them. So there's a little bit of an upper hand that the protesters have. So there are protests going on the campuses. They are expanding and they are continuing. They've been going, as far as I know, for about 4 or 5 days. I did mention this last week, you might remember, that the protests were going to resume because we were passing the 40-day mark from the massacres that took place on January 8th, 9th, 10th. That's when the main killing was done of protesters, and the 40th day of mourning is traditionally in that part of the world a day for, it's almost like a second funeral that takes place there. So at one of those events, we saw the mother of one of the people killed. And this is the kind of thing that could never have happened, that can't happen if the regime is still strong. Look at the way she's dressed and look at what she is saying. Hello. Here it is.
ولی آرزوهاشو، هدفاشو، راهشو، مسیرشو نمیتونی بکشی. مسیر و هدف و آمال آرزوی هیچ کسی رو نمیتونی بکشی. لباسی که تو این عکس تن مهراده تن منه، این برای تو یه پیام داره. شاید جسم تو این لباسو برده باشی، ولی نمیتونی کاری کنی که راهش ادامه پیدا نکنه. کفشی رو که بچه من یه تاش برگشت خونه، من قدم آخری که با این کفش برداشته قدم بعدیشو من برمیدارم. نفس آخری که تو این ماسک کشید، نفس بعدیشو من میکشم.
Okay, that kind of bold talk. Again, her hair is not covered. She's speaking out, and she's speaking in strong tones. There's a lot of people around. It's being filmed. This kind of public display could never have happened if the regime was strong. So we see that things are actually happening. Again, the resumption of the protests, and the CIA is getting involved also. The CIA just put out a video, an instructional video. That's what I have up here on the screen now. This is an instructional video put out in Persian, in Farsi, for Iranians for how to get online and do it in a way that circumvents the censorship. It gives all kinds of instructions about how to find the right websites and the right addresses to contact the CIA. And they're putting this out there. This is similar to a call that we saw about a week ago, a little more than a week ago, by the Israelis giving in Farsi, giving a message, putting a message out there on social media and putting a message out there to the Iranian people about how to contact the Israelis to cooperate. This is a similar move by the CIA. I think the Americans are realizing that there needs to be more work done on the ground with the people if the regime is going to fall, if strikes are going to lead to the fall of the regime, because, again, for all the reasons that I stated at the beginning of this video. So that's what this video you see on your screen is. Again, an instructional video from the CIA directed at the Persian people. Okay. Again, obviously you see here that it gives, how to use a VPN and how to circumvent and how to, and what are the, what are the instructions for making contact with the CIA. So I think this is interesting. Now, along these lines, I also want to play a clip of Senator Ted Cruz talking about Iran the other day, and he said something about regime change here. So let's pay attention to what he has to say.
How would you, if you were the president, how would you approach Iran? What is it, another limited strike to try to prevent nuclear enrichment and to say we're serious? Do you go beyond that? Do you hope that somehow organically it happens? Because when you break it, when you own it and you break it, we know what's happened in the past. It's not.
So I talked to the president last week about this, and what I urged the president, I said, listen, the regime has never been weaker. They are teetering. There are real-world consequences to losing a war. The Ayatollah lost to Israel in the 12-day war. They are weaker. The regime is weaker than it ever has been. And what I've urged the president, do not miss this opportunity. If the Ayatollah is removed from power, it will make America much safer. This is the leading state sponsor of terrorism in the world. The Iranian regime is responsible for murdering hundreds of American servicemen and women. They fund terrorists all over the world. And so what I've urged the president is, number one, support the protesters and arm the protesters. Let the people of Iran, give them the ability to overthrow their government. And number two, I think there's a very real possibility we will see, potentially in a matter of days, limited strikes. What we're not going to see is boots on the ground. We're not going to see a ground presence of American troops there, but I think there's a real possibility of targeted strikes that are designed to support the Iranian people who are protesting, not designed to put America in the middle of it, but designed. This regime, the Ayatollah, when he chants death to America, I believe him.
All right. Did you catch that? When he was talking about what advice he would give the president, here's Senator Ted Cruz saying that they should arm and support the protesters. Arm them and support the protesters. So that's already, that was not on my bingo card, to have a senator like Ted Cruz, who is very close to leadership, and to say that that's what he's recommending. And then we see the CIA video going out to the people of Persia, urging them to make contact with them. And also we have seen an actual attempt on Khamenei's life. Take a look at this. This was just reported yesterday. Iran International reports that Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has been moved to a special underground shelter in Tehran amid fears of a military strike, with senior officials being blindfolded en route to meetings to conceal the location. The report claims Ali Larijani was among those brought to the site before his trip to Oman. He's the lead negotiator on the Iranian side. It alleges Khamenei's sons, Masoud, handling daily affairs, and Mojtaba, maintaining contacts, are effectively running liaison roles. And also, the Iranian opposition has said that it's ready to take control within days. United Iranian Opposition Forces claim they could seize control of the country from the regime within days if provided with supportive air cover. And what I started this little segment with, Khamenei was almost assassinated. This is from yesterday. Iran's IRGC claims to have foiled a high-level plot by the MEK to infiltrate the supreme leader's residence and the presidential palace. As the regime reels from the January uprising, reports of internal hysteria emerge following dramatic clashes at the heart of Tehran's security apparatus. There were clashes at the palace, and the MEK said this too. The opposition also put out a notification saying that they attacked and were trying to assassinate him, and that they lost some men, and the IRGC lost some men. So here, let's take a look what happened. The IRGC claims to have thwarted a sophisticated infiltration plot targeting the nation's highest seats of power, including the residence of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and the presidential palace, according to a report by Al-Akhbar. Al-Akhbar is of course an Arab media outlet. Citing informed sources, the IRGC intelligence apparatus intercepted an operation orchestrated by the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran. That's the MEK, that's the opposition, in coordination with foreign intelligence agencies. The alleged plot aimed to breach the Supreme National Security Council headquarters and the office of the Supreme Leader. Sources indicate the plan was neutralized in its early stages before implementation could begin. Following proactive surveillance, the IRGC reported the elimination of several MEK operatives involved in the mission, while others were taken into custody. According to the MEK's press release, there were like 100 of their guys were lost, and over 100 also of IRGC. So it was a much bigger firefight, according to them. And you'd see why they would have an interest in making it a bigger firefight, and the IRGC would have an interest in saying, using numbers like it says here, several, right? Several, which makes it sound like just a few, because the IRGC wants it to seem like this isn't such a big deal. Yeah, there was an attempt on his life, and of course it's going to get out. They don't want to deny it, but we tamped it down and it wasn't very big. They don't want it to seem like there was a major attack, okay? They attributed the technical and intelligence backing of the operation to unidentified foreign intelligence bodies. Okay, that could be the Israelis, could be the Americans, and but it's also a claim, as it says here, frequently used by the regime. The PMOI-MEK, which functions politically as the National Council of Resistance of Iran, has been a long-standing opponent of the Islamic Republic. While previously designated as a terrorist organization by the US and the EU, again, the Iranian opposition was designated as a terrorist organization by the US and the EU, but the group has gained varying degrees of Western political support for its platform of establishing a secular democratic Iran. The NCRI, that's the National Council of Resistance, the opposition, is most notably credited with the 2002 exposure of secret nuclear facilities in Natanz and Arak. This internal security breach comes at a moment of extreme vulnerability for the regime. Reports of hysteria within the leadership suggest that the perceived proximity of the threat reaching the doorstep of the Supreme Leader has heightened fears of domestic collapse amid ongoing external military pressure. So, yeah, that is the situation on the ground there. And this is, so if you put everything that I've said in this video together, it looks like, the big question of what's going to, what brings down the regime, and are the conditions in place? So during all of this waiting, and a lot of people are thinking, wow, it's taking so long. It seems that the opposition is getting more bold. Okay, an assassination attempt. We saw that funeral scene, woman's hair uncovered and speaking out boldly against the regime. Student protests have resumed. We have Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz, putting it out there. Hey, I think the U.S. should arm the opposition and support the opposition. We have the CIA putting out its memo in Persian. The Israelis reaching out to the Persian people. So the stuff that has to happen on the ground to bring down the regime is being worked on, and we see that there are developments there. So that's the update for today. Again, we can only hope that this regime falls one way or the other. I remain skeptical that the bombing will actually help bring it down, because there's all sorts of collateral impact that it can have. My personal opinion is that the one thing that the U.S. has not yet done and could do, I understand why they're not doing it, but that they could do, is to reinstate total sanctions on the sale of Iranian oil. They have not done that. In the first Trump term, Iran was not allowed to sell its oil to anyone. Anyone who bought Iranian oil could not do any business with the U.S., so only North Korea was buying it because they don't do business with the U.S. anyway. And after Biden came into office, they lifted those sanctions, and the Iranians started selling their oil to the Chinese in large quantities. Between 80 and 90% of all Iranian oil exports go to the Chinese Communist Party. And the U.S. has not reinstated those sanctions. There's other sanctions they've put on, but they have not reinstated those sanctions. I believe that the reason that they're doing it is that they don't want to give China any incentive to take action here. They don't want to antagonize China at this moment. So it's a delicate it's a delicate balance here that I understand why the Americans are making that strategic calculation. But if you want to bring down the Iranian regime, if you cut off all the oil sales to the Chinese, and then the Iranian regime is even weaker and has no cash flow, that could actually strangle them. Again, I understand why the Americans aren't doing that, but I just wanted to put that out there. All right, that's the update for now. Please make sure to like, subscribe, share, all that great stuff. If you're finding these videos helpful, please let me know. Please say so in the comments. I appreciate it, and and you can give me some, anything you want to say. I do try to read through all the comments, and also please make sure to check out all the great stuff that we're putting up at Israel 365 News YouTube channel. There's a lot of content from our recent visit to Nashville, Tennessee, to the National Religious Broadcasters Convention that went on there. We had a big event, so make sure to go check out all that and everything else that Israel 365 is up to. All right, God bless.